this is going to be going out next month, in the month of new beginnings and things like that. And we've just been coming through the kind of hibernation stage of December and January. I kind of like to call it hibernation stage because everybody wants to be a little bit sleepy. And it's a bit like, when you go in that deep, dark tunnel on a train or something like that, and you close your eyes and you think everything's going to be just shuggling along quite nicely. And then suddenly there's this brilliant sunlight in your eyes and you don't know what's happening. So let's see what we can find inside the tunnel tonight and see if we get blinded by the light. Is that a song? Yes. Yeah, Manfred Mann even. Ah, God, my memory's working. So, yeah, it doesn't always do that. So let's go for it. But before we do, particularly since we have a new face here, and if we're lucky, he might come back, let's introduce ourselves and we'll start with the newbie. Chris, who are you? What are you doing? Where'd you come from?
Hello, everyone. My name's Christopher. I am a health kinesiologist, and I am from London. London-based, London-born, and it's a pleasure to be here with everyone. And I definitely will be coming back.
No, don't talk too soon. Jennifer.
Hello, hello. My name is Jennifer, and I am a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, and of course, I'm in Canada. And I'm excited to be back with all of you.
I was just talking to somebody today about how Canadians, and he was saying how Canadians are just terminally beautiful people. And I said, yes, they are, kind of. Yes. Mary, you're nodding, so we'll go with you next.
I do, because I agree. I'm Mary Corbett. I am over in East Cork in Ireland, and I am a life coach focusing mainly on people who have been made redundant and are looking to get back into the workplace, or maybe change careers, or maybe retire, or maybe just design an entire new life altogether. And that's me.
That's quite a few tunnels to be going down. Really?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Willie. I am the COP turned life coach, helping stressed out men to get their lives and their mojo back. So I live in the west of Scotland, and this image you see behind me is not my back garden.
Oh, but it looks very nice, doesn't it? Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm also a health physiologist and I'm a coach as well. And I work with people just now who are feeling scunnered. If you don't know what that means, come and have a conversation. And that's not real, just since Willie mentioned his, that's not really there either.
Oh, I was having such a nice time there too. Yeah, my name's Leslie Marsh, and I suppose by now all I can say is I'm a bit of a stirrer. I like to stir things up and see what happens.
She
And
does.
so I do, I do. Life is never boring. So what I'm doing really is interested in what's happening about how you're running resistance patterns against change, how you want to do it, or do you really? And what's happening in your job and in other areas in your life. So we're looking for the bits and pieces that you're nurturing, and if you're nurturing the right things, or you're just growing something in some agar, which is a different culture altogether. So let's talk about these tunnels and the light at the end of them. Now, I think last time, as you say earlier, because I can't remember, because there's been a new year between then and now, we talked about, I was on about going into the light, which actually is kind of a metaphor as well for the ending of one year and the beginning of another, because we did have a solstice going on, and that meant that the light started coming back. So we're now going into the light, whether we want to or not. However, it's what the light sheds on. What are we thinking about, Angela?
I'm just trying to work out where your brain's going to go this week. That's as far as I've got.
Even
I don't quite know where I'm supposed to take any of that question.
Pick one and go with it.
I don't know. The lights at the end of the tunnel, I think we did talk about what can we be working towards? Where are we moving towards? What are we looking forwards to? And actually hoping it's not just another train coming towards us, but actually coming through and seeing the beauty of nature, or the start of a new year, a new season with all the opportunities that are out there. And I guess for me, it's about creating what we want our lives to look like rather than just plodding through a dark tunnel.
That's the thing, though. I mean, it can be for a lot of people the idea of doing something different and changing is a bit of crash bang wallop, and oh my goodness, there's something coming at me, and I don't really know if I like it. So, Mary, you're kind of in that area with people who are changing life.
Yes, and I find it fascinating because one of the things I've discovered that when people are made redundant, some of them celebrate because it's the tick up the nether region, but they actually needed to make a change. And now they're doing it maybe with a financial buffer as well. So they've got a few months to, oh my God, I can actually do things. I'm never cease to be amazed at the number of people who decide to opt out of corporate once they get the redundancy package. And that's great fun because I'm engaged to help them get a job, and then I end up actually helping them design a business plan. It's great fun. But what's interesting is that there's also a massive number of people who actually get swamped and overwhelmed because suddenly they have choice. There's options. And you were saying that, Angela, what's available to us? What can we do? There can be too much. And it gets too much. Well, I'll jump in here and I'll jump in there and I'll jump in somewhere else. And that's where people like me come in and we kind of say, okay, let's slow it down and let's put a little bit of we'll instead of freewheeling, we'll actually step on the brake and we'll slow you down and actually say, let's put a little order to the chaos. So I do think that when we talk, as particularly as coaches, about guiding or supporting people to get to their light or their goal or their objective, it's very much about that grounding space for them that I think really matters that we get it right.
And Willie, that can come into the mojo situation, particularly with men, because they tend to kind of keep staring at that light until it rolls over them.
Very much so. How often have you heard someone saying, I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel? Or in fact, have you ever said that yourself? So the question for me is, why is that the case? And if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, what do you have to do to remedy that? Now, my feeling would be it has to be some sort of change, as Mary alluded to. I'm reminded that Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the USA, said that there are only two certainties in life, death and taxes. I would add two more, one of which is change, which is inevitable, unstoppable, and you have to manage it. And the other one would be uncertainty, which, as Mary alluded to, I suffer from when I was made redundant at a very ripe old age after my career in the police and corporate security. And I was obliged to change because I had no choice. And as you said, Mary, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm now a coach helping other people. So if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, ladies and gentlemen, think about what you're going to have to do to change that.
Yeah. Although uncertainty is a wonderful place, really, because it's quite verdant place. If you look at it, I suppose it's how you look at it, isn't it, Chris? See you nodding there, so you're agreeing with me.
Yeah.
You've got
No, I
to
agree. Perspective is something that you're sort of subject to, but also you can kind of choose, you can change. I always like to think there's 360 on everything, and every angle has something to tell you, but it's about where you focus your energy, it's where you put your passions, it's where you I really liked what you said, Mary. Choice paralysis. It's super easy to get choice paralysis, and it's you close one door, you open another, but you have to close something. You can't have everything. So you've got to choose, you've got to find the alignment. And I think over the years, what I've tried to do with my own careers is go towards that which gives me energy, which energizes me, which brings light internally, I suppose, which sort of brings that up and illuminates me. And if I can do that, well, then I'm carrying my light as I go through the tunnel and not just looking at it as a destination, something I'm subject to. It's not just something that I'm chasing. It can be very easy to carrot yourself, which is a great motivation, but every now and then you need to have a little bit of the carrot. You can't always be chasing. So yeah, that's yeah, It's an interesting phrase. In my own health journey, I was a former cancer patient, and I did remember everyone kept telling me, "Oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel," and I got there and I was like, "This is bullcrap. There is no light." I was quite depressed really at the end of it. So there is, and I think that's where perspective comes in. I was on a mission just to get through it. I didn't think about the other end. I just wanted to get there. And then when I was there, I was a bit flat and a bit lost. And I suppose it just goes to show you carry with you what it is that you're looking to seeking as well. And it's a combination of tweaking your perspective, having a reflection, and also letting go, clearing that way so you can see the light as much as anything.
I think Dickens had a great metaphor in Jacob Marley with that, about carrying all this stuff, all the chains and the links of the chains that you're carrying along with you. And it's ghosting you behind and always kind of there, but you're trying to get away from that instead of actually saying, okay, I'm just going to cut it. But the other thing is that when we're going along a journey like that, that is the thing that we identify with on a minute by minute, second by second basis, because our mortality is just like there. You look in the mirror and it's like, oh, okay, now I'm going to have to do something because my body's changing and I don't like how it changed. So I'm going to have to change my perspective in order to look at it different ways. But a lot of people get that paralysis in that they end up in a corridor and all the doors are closed. And it's the same corridor. Everything is the same. Every door is the same. And they just freeze because they can't figure out a way to pick one because the risk factors for them are too high. So what we are thinking about and talking about, I suspect, is allowing people to understand that there are choices, that what we do is, we live in the moment to a certain extent while we can, and we forgot how to do that because we're always thinking about tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So, Jennifer, what can we do to stop thinking about tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, apart from stop singing Annie songs?
Well, I love what everybody has shared so far in terms of, this idea of light and, our concept of creating that light. And I loved, Christopher saying, yeah, we carry that light with us and we have the ability to do that. So, Willie, as you were talking about this uncertainty piece, what came to mind for me is the Tao Te Ching. And one of the lines in there is that, not knowing is true knowledge. Perceiving that we know is a disease. And so how can we, create that light within ourselves is recognizing what put us in the tunnel in the first place. What is it that we think we know that we're holding on to? What is it that we're not allowing ourselves to look at? You talk about this tunnel and all of these doors and not knowing where to go or what to do. The very first step is to go in and find that light within us. And as we illuminate that, we get to actually see what each door has to offer and what the differences are and how we can navigate and make a decision that is aligned for us. But it comes to embracing the uncertainty and allowing for the potential of change. And those are things that are really hard for us to sometimes come to terms with, but they make for beautiful transformation.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we're not taught at school.
True.
You can go indoors, inside, and you can have the ability and the power to change things for yourself. Angela.
I was just thinking with your analogies of the corridor with all the doors and the paralysis of well, which one do I open? Why do you just have to open the one? Just because you've opened a door and gone in, you don't have to stay in that room. You can come back out. You can go in next door. And it's about checking which door do you want to go into and which room do you want to be in for that time period, and then maybe changing and doing something different.
It's a big bad bogeyman of uncertainty, though, isn't it? What's behind the door? Maybe it's another door.
Yeah, so then embrace it. Look at it as a challenge. Look at it as an exciting thing. We don't have to look at everything with fear. And I think I was reading something about excitement and if you're all excited and you stop breathing and you hold your breath for the excitement, it can then turn into fear because you need breath now. So there's all that as well. So is it excitement? Is it fear? Our body does the same response. It's what our mind's doing that tells us the difference. So look at it as an exciting thing. Look at it as a challenge. Look at it as something fun to go and explore. But don't stick in the dark corridor with the doors all shut and the lights off.
Sometimes it's difficult to understand how to get there, though. We have to start
That's what
somewhere.
we're all there for.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. We're all here. We're here with our little Florence Nightingale lamps going on. This way, come this way. We'll show you the way. But it's also something that we've been talking about in the background quite a lot, is this resistance to change. And I've been talking to people about New Year's resolutions and things like that. And many people don't do them anymore. I have stopped doing them for a long time. Because they don't understand to a certain extent, what's the point in doing them when we're not going to ever do them? That's not good, it doesn't work. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't work because you're trying to do too many things at once. So people will be, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to go on a diet, and I'm going to go and do this and do that and do the other. Pick one. Oh, no, I've got to do all, because if no, pick one. Just the one. And then just do it an echo bit. Just a teeny bit. Every day. Just do that. No. And then, of course, they get disappointed.
But when they get disappointed, then say, "Oh, I failed immediately." When you say, no, you made this a goal for a year. This is only a day. You can go back. You can start again, and you can start again in the second week of January and the third, and in through February and March, and you can reinstate them in the middle of June if you want to.
Yeah, because it just depends when you want to start your year. It could be July.
And sometimes you just need to find the right strategy for yourself. So what's the strategy that'll work for you with your circumstances? And sometimes, the conventions mightn't be the way. So I do find, like, I love goals at one level and aspirations for a year in the sense of, well, at least I know where I'm headed. So I'll know when I get there. But there's another part of me that says it's dressed up as being this big thing instead of being, let me make a single step today to move me a tiny little bit towards it. I just, little baby steps. And I'm a fan of baby steps. I think baby steps matter so that you build your confidence and then it isn't so uncertain and it isn't so big. And that how big we make it. So all of this is in our heads. So it's very much, again, coming back to this perspective piece. It's like, hang on, I want to lose 20 kilos. That's an awful lot. So, well, you know what? I'm going to celebrate losing one.
That's a small child.
Yeah, it's a very big chunk to ask somebody to take on in one go. So I think, when we're at this thing of reaching towards the light or changing direction or look, the size of the chunk we take on, we may have a transformation in the process, but we also may just have some transactional bits to get us on the road, to get us started and to build momentum. And I'm a fan of make a few small steps and build momentum. That's my style. That's a space I feel much more comfortable in. So I do think that, this it's one of the challenges of the New Year's resolutions. The steps are too big. Little steps, much better option and a much greater chance of success.
But it's that way. If you're saying, so my goal for 2025 is X. So write down that by the 31st of December, this is what I will have. But how do we then break that down in over 12 months? What are the bite-sized chunks? So it's not just saying, well, I'm going to be a non-smoker, I'm going to stop tomorrow. It could just be you're going to phase down from 10 to 8 to whatever it is you choose to do. But it's about taking those small, consistent actions to get you there. But the first step is decide what it is you want, write it down, and then break it down.
Yeah.
It's like the old question, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Well, it's the same as you don't put your Superman pants on and leap from the ground to the top of a tall building in one leap, because it never works. As Mary says, baby steps, one step at a time, which builds momentum. So you figure out what's the first step. You achieve that, what's the next step? and so on and so on. If you've got to write it down, as Angela says. I'll be doing this by that date, and then once I've achieved that, and so on and so forth. But I think people are very change averse, which is down to being risk averse, which is all down to fear. If I change, well, that could be scary. If I do something different, something new, that could be scary. Well, what if it's not? What if it's absolutely fantastic? You don't know till you've tried it, but it's taking that first step forward. And I would urge everyone, if you have a goal or a light at the end of the tunnel, as Angela says, figure out what it is, write it down, and figure out the steps you need to take along the way. It's like, you're here, you want to be there, how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, the other thing is the ecology around you too, though. When we make these decisions, we don't always consider those people around us who are going to look at us and go, "What the hell do you want to do that for? What are you on? I don't know you if you don't do that. How can I be your friend if you stop smoking and I'm still on 60 a day? How does that work? That makes me feel that, I'm not worthy to be your friend because you're smarter and stronger than I am." So there's a whole lot of stuff that we have to kind of think about how much of the change we can make in small steps is probably better, because then it allows the people around us not to notice and not to put a spanner in our works. Chris, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna it really potent because for me this year I was the same. I would set intentions for New Year, and this year I was like, no, I'm just going to give gratitude to what has happened. So I looked back rather than rushing forward. So I prepped the ground, and I just really closed off everything that had got to that point. I'm at a point of threshold. I want to change. I want to look forward. But how can I do that if I've got all this, as we said, the ghosts or the baggage? So it was very much about being grateful, just being thankful, prepping the ground, setting a couple of dates and just saying, oh, this day I'm going to do this, and then this day I'm going to do that. And as you said, building into that momentum. And really, as you're pointing out, Leslie, you are sacrificing something. If you've been a smoker, which I have been for many years, you're giving up an identity. You're letting go of something. And that's hard, because you're having to make space to bring something new in. And I sometimes feel that we don't give that part of us that got us here enough credit or enough love so we can actually part with it in a way where we're not because sometimes if you go from one extreme to another, it's easy, but you're not really solving the problem. You're just swapping colors. It's a bit like jumping political parties, it's just changing blue for red. It's not really changing the extreme issues that you're dealt with. So I'm agreed. Small steps, give gratitude, prepare the ground, and bite-sized pieces, and celebrate a little celebrations. Like when I go on holiday, I have one thing I want to do, which is I want to sit on the beach and drink a cocktail. And as long as I do that, everything else is a bonus. Everything else is a win. Everything else is great. And then I'm always feeling good about it. And I'd often find when you're trying to change, it's that negative identity, that idea, that loss that really pulls me back. And then I just sink deeper or I get stuck again. So I'm a big fan of combining all of
And
the
I
movement.
think that's a big thing too, because especially with around New Year, the health and wellness stuff. If we're changing our dynamic to be healthier, to be fitter, to be a non-smoker, to lose the the people we have around us is a huge part of it that we have to pay attention to. Because, if I have said I'm going to go out walking and, as somebody sitting at home says, it's wet this evening, why don't we sit down and have a glass of wine instead? It's a very easy old pattern to go right back into so fast. It's easy. So I think, if we are having change, we may realistically have to look at who is our network around us that's nurturing us and holding us and helping us along the way. That if you stay with all of the people from the old system, it creates a different set of challenges.
I mean, the first thing that somebody does as soon as you say you're stopping smoking is, here, have a fag.
Yeah.
Go on, one last one.
One
One
last one. Yeah.
How can you hold a drink in one hand and not have a cigarette in the other? I mean, it just doesn't work. You've got to be balanced. You've got to, and of course, the way to be balanced is have neither. Or just have two drinks in the other hand. Yes, there you go.
Yes,
That'll be the one.
absolutely.
But this is it. Again, like you mentioned earlier, Christopher, it's perspective. It's where we're coming from. And again, a lot of it is also what we have seen throughout our lives, other people, how they've managed this kind of diagnosis, that kind of thing goes on. Because as soon as certain words are said, there's a whole story around them that's already fixed for people. And I used to work in the veterinary industry. And as soon as you said that an animal had a tumour, they were dead. And that happens with humans as well. As soon as the word cancer comes up, oh, that'll be it then. But it's not. It's so far away from that. And the thing is that this is what we see when we see things going on where people who are older, who have smoked like 100 cigarettes a day for the last 40 years, who have no idea and have no compunction to change that. I mean, I don't tell you how many people I saw when sitting outside the Beatson with their chemo in their arms, smoking before they go back in again. And I just couldn't get that. To me, that was, why? Could you not get a nicotine patch for the day? And it's one of those things, but it's not just the nicotine. It's the actual physical habit of the doing of it and the being of it.
The ritual.
Yeah, the ritual, the identity as well. Yeah. I mean, when I was smoking, it was a case of it kept my temper down long enough for me to not hit anybody.
But all that was just the breathing exercise, right?
Well, yeah, it was basically. But oh yeah. It's like one long draw on an Embassy Regal, and I was quite happy. And the person was still alive, so it was good.
A win-win.
A win-win-ish, yes. My auntie, when she was really stressed, she would smoke 3 cigarettes at once. Yeah, all lined up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's an example for you. So like, oh wait, stress, right? Yeah, 3 of them, right? Okay. I wonder what that feels like. And it's amazing how that can happen. But then we don't do it the other way. We don't sit and watch people doing different things and being healthy and say, I wonder what that feels like. Maybe we could do that more. I wonder what it feels like to not smoke for 3 hours. I wonder what it feel like to go for a walk for 5 minutes. Actually, it probably feels like for the first couple of times. And that's what puts a lot of people off.
Depends
You
the
got to get,
terminology.
yeah, but you got to get rid of the stuff.
If you don't light up, you might feel lighter.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a mood sense, not in a weight sense. How do you make yourself feel lighter? More energetic, more enervated, happier, more contented. And I'm an ex-smoker too, until the doctor told me, quit or you'll get emphysema. So that was a wee starter for 10. But the word light is a marvellous thing. You can light your fag, light a fire, you can light yourself up, you can feel lighter, you can see light, all that kind of stuff. And
you can be light.
Your pardon?
You can be light.
You can be light. Yes. You can be the light.
You can illuminate.
As one of our friends would say, you might remember this, Mary, be the lighthouse in a sea of trouble. We're all in the same boat. No, we're all in different boats looking for a lighthouse.
We're all in the same ocean. Right. Different boats.
But some of us are paddling.
Some of us are going in for a swim.
Yeah.
Dive in, the water's fine. No. That's it though. It's for some people, it's like you're asking them to dive in without any safety because they have no touchstone to deal with it afterwards. But then that's what we are. We're the touchstone. We're there to give them that touchstone and to allow them to understand that there's so many different ways of approaching the same thing. And that's what is interesting. There's so many people who have got this idea and that idea of what's the right way to deal with something and want to paste it on everybody. just sweeping generalization, Angela, of a commodity that's going to just, it's going to cure all your ills. Just take a jab, take a pill, it'll be fine. Everything's going to just work perfectly. But we don't hear about the ones who are in the corner in the back going, didn't work for me.
I always found that interesting in terms of New Year's resolutions, right? Because it's all this is the time of year to make this resolution. We can decide to make change happen at any point, and we can decide to make different changes happen at different points. I mean, if you think about aligning with the natural cycles, one of the things that I was thinking about earlier as you all were talking is, that idea of exercise and getting outside. But here in Canada, in January and February, getting outside is not that easy unless you're an avid skier and really enjoy being frozen solid. And so I look at that and go, okay, if I'm going to create a goal or wanting to do something different for myself, I also want to align that with what's going to feel natural and what I'm going to be able to make change for. I don't want to compound it and make it even more difficult. So I may say that in the winter, I'm going to do this for my goal. Come spring, I may wish to do this for my goal, right? And allow it to have its ebbs and flows naturally. And if I can do that, then I actually, you were talking about the small steps. I can create small lights on my journey. And so each time I have this new success, because I'm making sure that it's aligned and that it resonates for me, I'm flicking those lights on as I go, right? And it's not about being, getting to the end of the tunnel. Now the tunnel is illuminated and this is my journey and it can be beautiful.
That's a great thing to think about, because when you're putting all these lights on, you can actually look back and see where you've been and how far you've come. And the fact that you've lit so many lights, it's a bolster. It is something to encourage to go forward. And it's a wonderful thing. And Christopher mentioned thresholds earlier on. I was thinking, thresholds, these are wonderful, magical things, because you cross them daily in life. But also, one of the biggest thresholds that we have is the moment we go to sleep. We are going to sleep. We have finished the day. We are crossing the threshold into another time. So we can take our Jacob Marley stuff and we can chuck it behind us and just leave it behind us, and that's it. We don't need to do it anymore, because we are actually only ever going forwards physically. Mentally and emotionally, we might be stuck in the past somewhere, but we have to actually get up and walk forwards every day, because we have to walk into the light.
Is that point as well, that those chains might be what we see as our identity?
Yeah.
They might be our security blanket, our safety blanket, and it could just be we don't know who we are or what we would do without them.
Yeah.
Because no one's ever said to us it's okay to put them down. That we don't need to carry them every day, day in, day out. And the more you drag something on the ground, the more dust you pick up, yeah? So you don't want to be dragging it behind you. But sometimes we just need to give ourselves or be given permission to put it down.
I'm gonna go kind of media here. Demi Moore at the Golden Globes this year said the most amazing thing. And she was talking about how a producer, someone in authority, she perceived as being an authority over her in the 80s, told her that she would only ever be a popcorn actress. She would never amount to anything else. And she said these words, and it was brilliant. She said, and I bought into that. That became her identity. That became the milieu in which she would work, the limits between which she would work. That every film, every project that she did would be popcorn stuff. I mean, I don't think G.I. Jane was that much of a popcorn stuff, but, maybe that was the one little break. That was a bit, oh, yeah, but that's getting changed real hard. But it is one of those things. She just won a Golden Globe for the movie that she was in, and she couldn't believe that in 40 years that was the first thing that she'd got, because she bought into an idea that wasn't even hers. It was given to her. And I think that becomes part of our identity as well, what's given to us, even by accident. It could be somebody's just having a bad day, like you were saying earlier on, and it's not wonderful, and they're having a rant. But if you're feeling even slightly vulnerable and you're a small person, that's going to go in there and it's going to sit there. And then you're going to say, oh, well,
it's going to grow.
And it's going to grow. But it always grows down the way and gets roots in before it goes anywhere else. And that's why it's hard for people like us to actually get rid of it all at one time. So we have to take baby steps sometimes. We can't expect total miracles all at once, just like that, because it's, so it can happen slightly like that. We still have to support afterwards. Yeah. We still have to make the support afterwards. Because it's like anything. It's like when you go and see people like Tony Robbins and you think, oh, the wonder's wonderful, it's great, I feel totally magic, it's great, I can do all this stuff, and tomorrow it's going to be so different. Then you get on the bus and you come home and you open the door and you're in the same four walls.
With the same people.
With
and
the same people.
Bills and the post.
And the same people who treat you the same way that you've always been treated by them.
And the only way you can change that is to change. The old Scottish phrase, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. Right?
Yeah.
So the chains, the baggage, what people say to you only drag you down if you let it, if you allow it to happen, because you have a choice. It's if someone says something bad to you and you feel upset, that's your fault. You've allowed that to happen.
But it's very much you're buying into it.
Yes, it's a question of mind over matter, Mary. You don't mind what they say because they don't matter. Right? And if you remember that, someone says something bad to you, you have an absolute choice about how you react to it. If you ignore it or don't let it affect you, nothing's happened. It's only when you allow that to drag you down that things don't go well. And when you remember that, and it took me a while, that doesn't matter because I no longer mind it. It doesn't matter. I only allow myself to be dragged down if I let that happen. If I don't let it happen, it won't happen. And how simple is that? But how often do we forget it?
It becomes our self-talk. That's part of the situation. It becomes our self-talk. When we buy into it, it becomes this ricochet fractal that comes in every so often when certain situations are coming up. So we have to be aware of our self-talk and our thoughts. We have to be aware of what we're saying to ourselves, because we don't talk to ourselves very well at all sometimes. I know I don't. I'm getting better, but But the other thing, when you do what you say and you say, I just said it. What you make of it is your own affair.
Yes, what other people say to you is none of your business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What people think of us is none of our business, to be perfectly honest. But trying to get people to believe that can be an interesting situation.
The word permission's coming up for me. Like the word permission. We give permission to these things. And we'll also struggle to give permission to change. It's the other flip side of the same concept. And I love what you said about Demi Moore, because it reminded me of creativity. Sometimes it's better to limit yourself creatively to get more expression. So pick a couple colors or pen. So you're confining to sort of refine an idea, or then to simplify to amplify. So it's amazing how these same techniques that trap us can free us. And it's just knowing how to, when it's served its purpose, put it down, or to be able to sort of swap. So it's that picking up, putting down aspect, and just being resilient. And I suppose one of the things that I really I'm learning still in being in this space, being the health space, the wellness space, is what's that line between empowering and then teaching and getting people to then make that change themselves. Like, it's not opening the door, but they have to walk through it. You can't push them through it because they become reliant or resentful, and neither is a good look. Neither.
Can't do it for anybody. It's got to be done by themselves. You can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Bingo.
you
Yeah.
know.
And how do we encourage that? I suppose that's what I've always, it's that fine line of learning, you know.
I think these days it's a lot to do with showing rather than telling. And people understand. I think that when I'm at my stall, a lot of people say to me, "You're gonna love this, Angela." A lot of people say to me, "You're so calm." I told you she's gonna love that. And that's because I'm probably
Yeah.
talking to a dog at the time. But because the
They're
dogs pick
all
up on the
lying to you.
they're not all lying to me at all. Because I'm talking to their dogs and dogs make me calm. But there's an attitude there that when I'm there, I feel much better about being who I am there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference. Bringing it back home again can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge, but but at least I know I can do it. I know I can do it.
And that's
So
the baby step or the first step or the bite-sized chunk. And it might
Yeah.
only be 2 days out of the 7 every week. It's start.
A
yeah.
light, as Jennifer said, it's a light tick. That
Yes.
counts.
Yes.
It counts. End of.
Have you got a light, mate? Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, done.
In
No,
terms of the resilience piece, as both Willie and Chris were talking, what was coming to me, because you're saying, it's theirs, don't take it on, don't take it on. And what you said, Leslie, was so important. And I use this example with clients all of the time. If you're walking down the street and somebody yells over to you, and of course I make sure the client doesn't have green hair when I do this, but client yells over to you and goes, "You have the most ugly green hair. I can't believe you did that to your hair. What is wrong with you?" If you well, it's not green, right? And we kind of go, okay, there's something wrong. That person's a little off. They're not okay. We don't own any of it because we don't relate to it. And that inner narrative that you were talking about isn't being fed by it. So we don't own anything that the other person says. But the moment that they say something and there is a part of us that believes that, or there is a part of us that says that to ourselves, we have a really hard time letting that go. And so when it comes to that resilience piece, I have this with clients all the time. Sometimes somebody can say something to me and it doesn't matter. And other times somebody says something to me and I just take it to heart and I really can't get over it. Right. And that's what it is. So in those moments where, again, we're looking at this idea of creating our light inside this tunnel. If in that tunnel somebody throws darkness at us, right, and we catch it, and we allow that to put that light out for a time, that's actually a blessing for us. Because if we can look at it in that moment and go, what just happened inside of me that made me catch that darkness? Then we can figure out how we can put that out, turn that light back on, and then keep on going.
That's the whole Pono again. Recognizing what the fault is inside ourselves that is matching and attracting the other part. So by healing it inside ourselves, we will never see it again. Or we'll be able to repel it. But resilience is a double-edged sword. It really is a double-edged sword. And when we talk about resilience, particularly when it comes to people who have been in bad situations for a long, long time, possibly all of their lives, and they end up with autoimmune diseases and cancers, etc. And that's basically because they were resilient, but they were only pushing things away and pushing things under and not actually being able to sustain themselves because the onslaught was just too much for them. And so that, yes, I'm resilient. It's like water off a duck's back. And actually, they're just underneath all this stuff and it's crushing them, but they don't know how to vocalize it. They don't know how to say, I need help. Because there's always somebody saying, oh, you'll just do that for me, won't you? You'll listen to all my shit, won't you? I can leave all that with you. Not a problem. And then I'll go home and I'll feel absolutely hunky-dory and all lit up and totally fantastic. And you'll be sitting there in the dark going, huh?
What just happened?
He's feeling so good. It's so good. And you have an Eeyore moment or 10.
It's like
For anybody
Ghostbusters.
who doesn't know who Eeyore is, look at Christopher Robin and the Tales of the Woods
Winnie the
thing.
Pooh.
Yes, Winnie the Pooh. That's the guy. Winnie the Pooh. How could I forget that? I knew a lab called Winnie the Pooh once. So think of it. When you're telling people that everything's okay and it's fine and it's great and you go and do it and I'll be here and I'll just wait for you to finish off doing what you're doing before I even think about myself. Stop it. That's the first change you can make. I think I found out a new term today. When people say, oh no, that's selfish, that's selfish. Actually, what we want you to be is selfist. So looking after yourself first means that you're going to be a lot stronger and a lot easier. You'll find it to help other people and give them a hand up if they need it. And if they are not just, as we say here, taking a len of you. So that's like taking advantage of you. But think about it. There is light everywhere. No matter where we are, somewhere there is a light. All we have to do is switch it on and then follow where it leads us. And it might take us into a cul-de-sac, but then we can always turn round and come back out again. We just have to know how to get there. And for that, we have maps. So we'll see you next time. Have fun.